this one's that much and this one's that much. Fuck off. And put fuck off in the label. I don't care. You can tell me to fuck off. But at least you're telling me the truth.
Oh, wow. I think looking at the numbers, it looks like a trip to the grocery store is like a punch in the gut.
Food inflation rates of countries around the world, with Canada as being the highest.
Inflation is 2.4%. So explain this. Why does a coffee cost 30% more?
Since 2021, it is estimated that our food prices have increased by 27%.
Do you think your coffee is costing you more lately? Well, you're not imagining it. Prices in Canada have nearly doubled since...
Welcome back to Canadian Rant. Let's be honest. Going to the grocery store in Canada now feels like getting punched in the gut. You walk in for milk, bread, and eggs, and walk out shocked, angry, and confused at how expensive everything has become. And this isn't just your imagination. More than 52% of Canadians say groceries are now their biggest financial stress. Not housing, not gas, not loans, food. Think about that. In a wealthy country like Canada, people are worried about feeding themselves. Young people are drowning. High rent, student loans, low wages, and now grocery bills that feel like luxury shopping. Families are cutting back on basics. Seniors are skipping meals. Parents are choosing between rent and food. And when people can't afford food, nothing else in the economy matters, because food is survival. So today we're talking about why groceries are getting more expensive, who is responsible, and why Canadians are quietly reaching their breaking point.
Inflation is 2.4%. So explain this. Why does a coffee cost 30% more? Groceries are up about 5%. Restaurants are up roughly 8.5%. Coffee is up over 30%. And yet the headline for inflation number is still 2.4%. That's because inflation is an average. Some prices move slowly. Others, things people actually buy every day, move much faster. There's also a technical reason. Last year, the government introduced a temporary GST break that pushes price down. And now that comparison is gone, inflation looks much higher. Even though some core inflation measures are cooling, and this is why an interest rate cut is unlikely right now. At 2.4%, inflation just isn't low enough, and everyday prices are still sticky. If inflation is under control, why doesn't it feel like it? Comments below. Ask Ray.
The irony now is that as it unwinds, it's really impacting food, especially food at in general, but food and alcohol beverages.
Is that why that food inflation is so high?
Yeah. No, it was high already, and now it's jumped. So you can see food purchase from stores is 5.0. Food purchase from restaurants, 8.5. You're getting fresh fruits and vegetables rising. Meat inflation is 8.5. We all know if you're lower on the socioeconomic ladder, you obviously spend more of your budget on food. So that's really, really hurting people. That's why the cost of living crisis is going to, in my view, going to be exacerbated. And so, this is something that to me, this is really what Canadians should be focused on.
I just saw a chart showing the food inflation rates of countries around the world, with Canada as being the highest. And that confirms what I was discussing with a friend of mine the other day. I said, I walk into the store and a chocolate bar is $6. A $2 chocolate bar is now $6. I can't even afford to buy a chocolate bar when I go to a convenience store. And that's the way Canada is now. And, I was 2 weeks ago, I was down in the States, and, the equivalent price for fuel, like my diesel fuel right now is between $1.40 and $1.50 a liter. And in the U.S., it's between 75 and 80 cents a liter. The economy in Canada, I can't figure out what's going on. They're talking about how bad it is, and inflation is stupid high. But also they're talking about how there's no construction. Construction is slow. But as I drive around Markham, I am seeing high rises and industrial units going up everywhere. At least the steel framing is going up. So they must be hiring trades, but we'll see what happens with that. I just, what I'm seeing visually out in the real world is not entirely matching what I'm seeing in economic reports. And, I don't know if they're trying to do a snow job on us or what's going on, but It's rough up here, and I'm heading back across the border because life is a lot cheaper down there. I'm going to be taking a load of recording equipment with me. Anyways, wish me luck driving through snowstorms and whatnot. Peace out.
Today's announcement is a recycled Trudeau-era policy. It will not permanently provide relief. It is a temporary measure. I believe it won't even cover one trip to the grocery store for an average working family.
Since 2021, it is estimated that our food prices have increased by 27%. A family of four used to spend about $14,000 a year on food, and now it's up to $17,500. Why is it happening?
Why? Because we are all in denial. The fantasy has always been around greed in Canada. We've never actually looked beyond that and say, well, listen, maybe we have a structural problem here. For example, the industrial carbon tax, which is actually making our industry less competitive, interprovincial trade barriers that actually don't allow our companies, food manufacturers, scale up and sell more food outside provinces into the US as well. The GST holiday last year, we feel that the food inflation rate would have been at 4.2%. The extra 2% was just not the tax. Other part was the cost to actually adapt to a world with no taxes, both at the grocery store and in restaurants. So due to bad policy, really bad policy.
Do you think your coffee is costing you more lately? Well, you're not imagining it. Prices in Canada have nearly doubled since 2020. A 340-gram bag that cost about $5.36 then now goes for $9.30, a 73.5% increase in just 5 years. Experts say prices are unlikely to drop anytime soon. Limited suppliers and high demand mean popular chains like Starbucks and Tim Hortons have little incentive to lower prices. Environmental factors are also driving costs up. Major producers like Brazil and Vietnam have faced storms, droughts, and rising temperatures, which have disrupted harvests. Switching suppliers isn't easy either. Coffee shops often rely on specific beans to keep their signature flavors. Economists say coffee is a staple, so consumers will keep buying even as prices rise. So the lesson here, if there is one, savor every sip.
Just a Friday night at the grocery store here to grab a couple things, and I'm walking past the, is it cloned or is it not? Who fucking knows? Why? Because apparently they don't even have to label it, right? I'm at Zehrs right now, and I don't know if I trust it or not. So for now, I'm just gonna go to a homegrown place and get my meat from there for the time being. But check out these fucking prices, dude. Look at this. Look at this. This pack right here, $16, bro. For this, $16. And look at this. Look at this family pack. $40. This pack of beef is $40. That's intense. $40. And it's like, you know what the best part is? It's almost like, I think this place is closing in an hour. If nobody buys all this, where does it go? Where does it go? Garbage? Toss it out? So it's like, what a fucking waste. You're charging up the ass, and then if no one buys it, it goes in the garbage. Anyways, we're going to pass on the beef for now, and because, you know, if they can't, how toxic is that? Speaking of word of the year, toxic, like, I mean, if you're telling us that you won't even put a fucking label on something to tell us, like, what it really is or where it really came from, like, come on. Like, really? Who made that decision? Why can't we just be healthy and just say, hey, this one's cloned, or this one isn't, this one's from here, and this one's from there. This one's that much, and this one's that much. Fuck off. And put fuck off in the label. I don't care. You can tell me to fuck off. But at least you're telling me the truth. That's all. Anyways, we're going to pass the beef for now. Take care. Happy Friday night. Ciao.
If you're a Canadian and you want to know more about Mark Carney's measures to tackle food security, let me break it down. So the government is creating a Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. This is basically a boosted GST credit to put more money in the pockets of Canadians who are receiving the GST credit. It goes up 25% for 5 years with a one-time top-up this year. meaning hundreds more for families and individuals. This directly helps more than 12 million Canadians receiving the benefit. We're also setting aside $500 million towards a strategic response fund to help businesses address the cost of supply chain disruptions so the costs don't get passed down to Canadians. In addition to that, they're also creating a $150 million food security fund to help small businesses and medium businesses like greenhouses and processing plants expand production. This also includes letting food producers fully write off new greenhouses, meaning more domestic food grown at lower cost with the intent to bring costs down. Simple supply and demand. This new strategy for national food security will also support the Competition Bureau in monitoring and enforcing competition within the market. So in simple terms, this means more money in your pocket to help cover grocery bills if you are a recipient of GST, investment in food production closer to home, support for food banks and community food programs, and it moves towards a more resilient, competitive food system for the long term. Now, this isn't a complete fix, but it is a major step towards making food more affordable and Canada's food system stronger. Let me know what you think of these policies.
I'm a Canadian driving across Canada. I drove from Nova Scotia to British Columbia. I've seen food and liquor prices and beer prices across the country. I so happen to be right beside the U.S. border, so I thought, let's go check out a grocery store in the U.S. We're here in Orville at Atkins grocery store. Let's go inside and check out some prices. Okay, the first thing I noticed are chicken wings. This whole pack of chicken wings is only $7.97. This would easily be $15-20 in Canada. Okay, check this out. A rib roast for $11. Not even on sale. This thing in Canada would be at least $15-20 as well. A 2-4 of Budweiser, $27. A 2-4 of Budweiser in Canada is more than $50. Wow. A gallon of milk, anywhere from $7 to $8 in Canada, $3.99 here in the US. 2 pounds of cheese, 2 pounds, $12, $11.98. This is over $20 in Canada, 2 pounds. This massive pack of chicken breasts, I'm talking huge, is only $16. We're looking at 3 smaller chicken breasts for $12 to $15 in Canada. This bottle of Bacardi, which we call a 2.6 in Canada, would be $32. It's $15.99 here. This massive pack, a family pack of pork chops, was $12.22. You'll get half of that in Canada for $12. No lie. Bananas, 79 cents a pound in Canada, are up to $1.20 to $1.50 a pound. Everyone's wearing a cowboy hat. They have these. There's 90s country music playing in this grocery store. I really like the vibe. I'm finding, as being a Canadian, I'm finding living there is just becoming way too expensive. What are your thoughts?
You crunch the numbers. What stood out?
Oh, wow. I think looking at the numbers, it looks like a trip to the grocery store is like a punch in the gut. How's that? You know, we asked Canadians the areas that they'd like to see reduce costs, like where they'd like to try to save money, at least in 2026. Groceries, by a country mile, at the top of the list in terms of where they'd like to see a little bit of help. You know, you can see 52%, followed by housing at around 23, and then healthcare at 9. And it speaks to the pressure that Canadians are under and how groceries are at the top of the list, significantly ahead of things like housing and healthcare and fuel and entertainment, all those things, as a focus to save money.
And that we need to eat. And that says a lot that you're having to cut back on what you spend to buy food.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing, Marcia, is that when we look at the regional numbers, the prairies, which is the bread basket, why don't we just say the bread basket of the country, their worry or concern about groceries and looking to reduce the cost of groceries, nationally it's at 52. In the prairies, it ramps up to 61. The other thing, Marcia, that really popped in terms of the numbers for me, which really stood out, young people and housing. Like the national average in terms of, you know, wanting to save or reduce costs on housing was 24. That jumps to 32% among young people. Young people, those people under 35 years of age, were the most likely to be worried about housing and wanting to see and look at strategies to reduce costs for 2026.
So what message does this send to the governing Liberals? Of course, we heard the GST break announced earlier this week, but does it end there, Tom? Or excuse me, Nick?
No, I don't think it ends there. I think this is actually a message for the Liberals and the Conservatives. You know, the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre have been focusing on what I'll say meat and potatoes issues like groceries and the cost of housing and stuff like that. They're way ahead of the curve, ahead of the Liberals for sure on that. And the Liberals are playing catch up. Maybe that explains why the Carney government has recently had this announcement related to a little more relief and help on Canadians related to groceries and the rising cost of living. I think this is going to be one of the key battlegrounds. Yes, Canadians are worried about Donald Trump and trade with the U.S. Get past that. It's all about pocketbook issues. It's all about paying for the bills. And at the very top of it are groceries, followed by housing.
It makes you feel helpless. We're playing against a stacked hand. Someone's holding all the cards, and now all of a sudden we're going to be left to pay more.
We know there's a concentration of grocery stores in Canada. Take a look at all these brands. Now look who their parent companies are. Sobeys, Metro, and Loblaws alone dominate around 60% of the market. But that only tells part of the story. We went digging through property records from dozens of grocery stores across the country. And what we found paints a picture of how big grocers can limit competition. It's called a property control, used commonly by developers to spur on new investment from many industries. But in the grocery sector, it means the big guys are able to control who sells food near them, and they can get specific. This Metro in Waterloo has to give permission for any large sit-down restaurant to open near it. In Halifax, if a dollar store near this Loblaws sells big brands like Coke, Evian, or Kraft at too low a discount, it could lose the right to sell them. And in Prince Edward County, Ontario, this agreement says any property the landlord owns within 5 kilometers can't have a Loblaws competitor on it. While property controls aren't unique to grocers, they've raised enough alarms in the industry for the Competition Bureau to launch an investigation into Sobeys and Loblaws' use of them. We know that property controls are used in a lot of different industries. What's different about the grocery sector when it comes to the use of property controls?
Part is their prevalence in the grocery sector, but also the sheer level of concentration in the grocery sector. And the other is affordability. We hear from Canadians on this issue all the time.
It's not right. And what are we going to do? Our society's allowed this to happen, and now everybody is paying for it.
I don't know if it's fair to completely dictate an entire plaza's worth of food just based off your property agreement.
It doesn't make me feel great that they're able to do that. It's just one more reason why things are more expensive and we have less control of our disposable income.
Even a retail giant like this Dollarama can be under Sobeys' control. The property control allows them to sell prepackaged food, but it even stipulates that they're not allowed to sell that at a deep discount to lure customers in.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. I think in the county where like fresh produce and like meat is such a big industry for so many people, it makes it harder for them to sell their stuff to locals.
Property controls are not the only factor behind the unique market power that major grocery chains have. Getting rid of property controls or prohibiting them will not be a magic bullet that solves the whole problem. But they are clearly, I think, a particularly egregious and incremental way that companies have taken advantage of consumers.
Loblaws told us in a statement that they are ready to eliminate all property controls across the country if the other major grocers agree to do the same. What do you think of that caveat?
Certainly from our perspective, these are positive steps in the right direction.
Loblaws won't come on camera to talk to us, but they do send a statement saying they've already released 150 property controls across Canada. They add industry-wide action would mean more stores, more discount options, and a more competitive market. We ask those competitors to talk too. Metro declines, and Sobeys never responds.
This is what happens when food becomes a financial crisis. You can survive without a new phone. You can delay buying a car. You can even live in a smaller apartment. But you cannot survive without food. And yet, in Canada today, millions of people feel anxiety every time they swipe their card at the grocery store. People are buying less meat, less fresh fruits and vegetables, more cheap processed food. Not because they want to, but because it's all they can afford. That has consequences: health problems, stress, mental exhaustion, and a generation growing up thinking this is normal. But it's not normal. Canada produces food. Canada exports food. Canada has massive grocery corporations making record profits. So why are ordinary Canadians struggling to eat? Who is protecting consumers? Who is holding grocery giants accountable? Who is standing up for families, students, seniors, and workers? Because if housing is second and food is first, that means people are being squeezed from every direction. This isn't just inflation. This isn't just global supply chains. This is a system where the middle class is shrinking, and basic survival is becoming expensive. And if nothing changes, groceries will keep rising, families will keep cutting back, and Canada will keep drifting toward a future where only the wealthy can eat well. Now, I want to hear from you. Are groceries your biggest expense right now? What food have you stopped buying because it's too expensive? Type in the comments, "Food is too expensive," if you feel this pain. And if you believe Canadians deserve affordable food, fair prices, and accountability, like this video, share it with someone who's struggling, subscribe to Canadian Rant. Because when food becomes a luxury, something is seriously broken.